Hello, welcome back to Forever Young Adult Book Talks. We are happy to see you again this week. I hope it's been a bit of a breather, or you're buckling down and getting ready for the end of the semester. We have some good books to talk to you tonight. But I wanted to share in my adventures today on the internet, I found an interesting quote from the only Margaret Atwood, best known for The Handmaid's Tale. Today is her birthday, apparently, according to the internet. So happy birthday, Margaret Atwood. And she found there was a quote on the internet that I found that I thought was really interesting and connected to what we've been talking about all year in our book club. And the quote is, "You're never going to kill storytelling because it's built into the human plan. We come with it," which we do, right? That's what we've been talking about all school year and all summer too, is that we, no matter what culture you're a part of, no matter where you are, what country you're from, who you are, you have a story to tell. And that story is worthwhile and valid and important for us to hear. So, on that note, let's get started with some of our important stories. And I'm going to pass it over for Heather, the first up of the evening.
Oh my God, that came so fast. So, I can't see myself in the video to know if my book is doing anything for you. Okay, this book is called Graceling by Kristin Cashore, I think, or Cashore. I'm not really sure how you pronounce names ever. And it's published in 2008, and I've owned it probably just as long. But since we've been in lockdown and staying at home, I finally decided to grab the books off my shelf that I should have read a long time ago. And I should have read this a long time ago. So this is a fantasy. It feels medieval-ish setting. There's like, the whole, it's real when there's a map that tells you about the kingdoms, right? And so the main character, Katsa, is Grace. So if you have a Grace, you're a Graceling. And you can notice Gracelings because they have two different colors of eyes, right? And so it's a journey story. She's a really tough woman. She she's basically the assassin for the king, and gets called out to do his dirty work. And she finally kind of has enough with that, but she's friends with the king's son, and they have a council that they kind of work underground for good. She ends up finding this old man who's being kidnapped and rescues him and brings him back to the kingdom. And his son ends up being also a Graceling and meets her. Well, they have to go on a journey together to figure out who was trying to kidnap his grandfather, and they fall in a very interesting, loving relationship. But she vows to never have a husband and never have children. He says he's okay with that. Works out. It's kind of a modern fantasy fairy tale, right? So I really love it. There's lots of kick-ass fighting. It's very adventurous. It reads really fast. And again, and I'm pretty sure there's a sequel. I know there is. It's red cover. I've seen it, but I like it. That's it. So now I'm going to turn it over to Katie, because she's still one of my favorite authors tonight.
Ha 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 ha. I don't feel bad about stealing your favorite author, Heather. We have mentioned before in our group, Jeff Zettner. Heather talked about his emotional book, Goodbye Days, a couple weeks ago. So I chose to talk about my other favorite Jeff Zettner book called Rain and Delilah's Midnight Matinee. This is a beautiful, heartwarming, hilarious love story to low-grade horror movies and those of us nerds who love them. So the two main characters is Delia and Josie. Delia and Josie run a super late night weekend, like 3 o'clock in the morning Airstream show called Midnight Matinee with their on-air personalities, Rain Ravenscroft and Delilah Darkwood. Dun, dun, dun. So these two girls, Delia and Josie, are seniors in high school, and with that comes all the challenges and drama of being seniors in high school. What comes next for them in life? Josie is the one who wants to leave their small town and go get a big city job as a big city journalist. Delia, on the other hand, horror movies, especially these low-grade B horror films, are her last connection to her dad, who left their family many years ago when she was a little kid. So the big event in the book is that Delia and Josie set off for a convention where they get to meet some of the famous people that they've always looked up to in their TV careers thus far. But things do not go as planned. There is people don't have their best interests at heart, and so they sort of turn out to find out that it's not always good to meet your heroes, as we see sometimes in movies and novels, especially in our young adult novels. So this book is heartwarming. There's friendship fighting about goals for each other. It made me cry at the end. Delia has a beautiful reconnection with her mom, who they've had a struggling relationship since her dad left the family. Their show is hilarious on air. Their personalities are hilarious. 10/10 would absolutely recommend if you love heartwarming stories, if you love B-grade horror films, if you love high school adventure novels. Jeff Zettner, Rain and Delilah's Midnight Matinee is my book for the week. All right, Amanda, it's your turn, girlfriend. Take it away.
Awesome. Hey, guys. So tonight I'm going to talk about the book Scythe, which I'm so good. So I know that a lot of us are trilogied out, but I got to tell you, if you're going to do a trilogy, this is the trilogy to do. It is so amazingly good. I'm just going to cover the first book tonight so we can talk more about the other ones later on. But this is the Arc of the Scythe trilogy. This is our first book. So Neil Shusterman, I think, is probably my favorite author. I love him to death. I think he has such cool ideas. And he has created a dystopian future where a very advanced computer has solved all the world's problems. There's no hunger, there's no death, there's no hardship for people. It's called the Thunderhead, and everybody reports to the Thunderhead. But the one thing the Thunderhead does not control is death. He can bring people back to life who accidentally die, but there needs to be a way to control the population. And so that lays in the hand of the humans. And so they have a very respectable organization called the Scythedom. And these individuals are scythes, and their job is to go out and kill people. And that sounds really overdramatic, but actually it kind of is like an art form. Each scythe has their own color robe that they wear. They have their own kind of label that they put on their deaths, and they choose. The way they choose is very well regulated. And so Scythe follows a scythe who has to choose an apprentice. And when they are chosen and they become scythes, they get to change their names, and it's kind of a cool thing in that sense that they are able to make the job their own. And so it follows Citra and Rowan. He takes on 2 apprentices. Neither of them want the job, which is the first thing about a scythe. You want a scythe who doesn't want the job, because you don't want a killing hungry scythe. And so it's kind of their journey as to which one is going to remain his apprentice. And as they get to know this society, they start to realize maybe it's corrupt. Maybe there's something more going on. Maybe there's some more drama. What role does the Thunderhead play? What are the people just pawns in kind of this big, huge game? And it is just an incredible book. And it is the reason trilogies were invented. And no spoilers, but the third book really takes a left turn, y'all. So we can talk more about it later, but it's a great book. And Neil Shusterman is just amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it on over to Steve. Thanks, guys.
Hi, guys. My first book to talk about tonight is called Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Abacedo. And she is one of my new favorite authors of young adult fiction. This is her 3rd book. She's at this rate writing about a book a year. She wrote The Poet X in 2018 or 2017 or 2018. That won the National Book Award. And then 2019, she wrote With Fire on High. And then this book came out this year, Clap When You Land. All her books are written in verse. And she's just a brilliant poet. And what she does, each book so far really focuses on a strong female protagonist, flawed and going through some sort of hardship and struggle. This book is about Camino, who lives in the Dominican Republic, and her father lives in New York City, but he visits during the summers because his job dictates that he works in New York City during the school year, and then he comes to the Dominican and spends the summers with her. The opening of this book is her father is supposed to visit her this summer, but there's a horrific plane crash, and he doesn't survive. So this is a book about grief, a book about love. Camino trying to, deal with that, the processing that grief of the loss. And then the other thing that we see the cover here suggests that there's this whole aspect to her father's life that she never really knew, because her father has another daughter in New York. So as you read this book, you get to daughters get reunited. So out of tragedy, there's a sister connection. And it's just, she does a great job writing complex, flawed characters, and she has a strong voice. This book, I think, is branching out into, it's still in verse, but I wouldn't be surprised if her next book is just a prose book. She's just evolving with her language. I recommend, this is a like 4.5 out of 5 stars. Great read. I'm going to turn it over to Adrian next.
Thank you, Steve. My first book is Star Daughter. If you can see it, the light's really bad in here. It's a beautiful cover. It's very, very glittery. The book is by Shveta Thakrar, which is a mouthful. Sheetal, the lead character's a few days shy of her 17th birthday. She's the child of a star mother and a human father, not like, a Hollywood star, but an actual star. She lives in an Indian American community in New Jersey. Her star fire that's in her, she's kind of, her mom left when she was 5, I believe, and her star fire, she's kind of always kind of pushed down. She accidentally lets it out one day and injures her father, causes him to have a heart attack, and lands him in the hospital. So Sheetal embarks on a journey with her best friend Manal to search for a star's blood to heal him. All these secrets come out that her father's family's been hiding from her because they didn't approve of her star mother. So they decide to go up to the skies to find her mother that abandoned her and to get some of her blood to heal her father. So the night that she gets there, it's a very tiring journey. She finds out that there's a huge competition going on to determine the ruling house of all the stars and the court. And she's the competitor for her family. And she hasn't even met any of her family up there. So she needs to quickly learn the traditions of the new world and race to secure the blood. Her grandmother that she just met says that she'll give her the blood if she wins the competition. So she encounters her human boyfriend up in the stars. So that's something that's very different. I really liked it. She's drawn with grace. She's very an authentic character, even though she's half star. Even though she's half star, she's very typical. She's 16, almost 17. She has a best friend, secret boyfriend. Her family's very traditional and they don't allow her to have a boyfriend. So, but there was a lot of Hindu mythology in it. A lot of descriptions about fabrics and things to eat. It was just really good, really accessible. The typical American girls, they're just, half star. They have pushy relatives. So I really liked all the descriptions of the realm of the stars. And she has a really good imagination. I believe it's her first book. And she created an imaginary world that I want to go visit with. So I gave it a solid 4 out of 5. So now on to Deborah.
Thanks, Adrian. I'm going to do, there's 2 books. I call them Darius 1 and Darius 2. This is actually Darius 2. Darius the Great Deserves Better. There was a first novel, Darius the Great is Not Okay. And the author is Adib Khorram, if I say that correctly. And I can kind of talk about both novels at the same time because it's really just a continuation of the same story. In both Darius 1 and Darius 2, our main character is Darius Kellner. He's an American teenager, and he has an obsession with 2 things, tea and Star Trek. Also, he calls himself a fractional Persian, which I like. His mother is Iranian. His father is white from America. And he doesn't have a great social life. He gets bullied a little bit at school. He struggles with his relationship with his father. They both suffer from depression, which is one of the interesting things in the first book, is to see how the author treats the whole issue of depression. In the first book, Darius travels to Iran to visit with his maternal grandparents, And while he's there, he meets a friend of the family, a young boy his age, whose name is Sohrab, if I say that right. And he becomes Darius's first best friend. And together they play soccer, they look at the sights of the city, they share secrets. And it kind of leads him to look at his whole family in a new way, and especially his relationship with his father. So that was kind of in the first book in a nutshell. In the second book, Darius is back home. He is on the soccer team now with some of the guys who used to bully him, because now he's one of those athletic kids. He's found a boyfriend, so he's come out on that sign, and he has a job at a local tea shop. So he's getting along a lot better with his father. But unfortunately, he finds, and as I mentioned, he finds himself kind of befriended by some of those kids that earlier were bullying him. And one of them in particular sort of is hanging out there as a potential love interest. But he has to decide, has he really found his place? Has he found the right place romantically? Has he found the right place in his job? Has he found the right place in his family? And so the conflict switches a little bit now. He's having troubles with his mother instead of his father. I liked Darius. When we read the first book, we read it as a group. I loved Darius and I liked his character. The second book was kind of like, well, it was like a second book. It was just more Darius in a different situation. I didn't find the plot as interesting. I didn't find the characters that he related to quite as interesting. So I would give the first book a definite 4.5 stars. Learn about Iranian culture, life, little pieces of Farsi if you want to pick up another language. And the second book, probably a 3.5, just because I think the story sort of peters out a little bit. So that's Darius 1 and 2. And I will turn it over to Heather.
My second book tonight is a book called The Thing with Feathers. Again, it's been on my list for a long time. It was on my Amazon list, but I went onto the public library website, requested a hold, had it shipped to the library near me, walked in, grabbed it off the shelf with my name on it, and walked out, and I feel like a champion just because of that. So The Thing with Feathers is my kind of story. It's short, it's fast, it's realistic, it's kind of heartbreaking. This is Emily's, the main character, and we meet her. She's going into high school. I think she's 11th grade, but she's been homeschooled her whole life. And the reason she's been homeschooled her whole life is because at 7 years old, she was diagnosed with epilepsy. So she's just deathly afraid to go to school and have a seizure in front of other people, or seize in general, and worry about her health. She one time seized in the ocean. She lives in North Carolina. It takes place there. Her mom and her live on a house that's right by the beach. And she seized one time in the water and almost drowned with her dad. The other complication for Emily at this time, 3 years ago, from the start of the novel, her dad died of lung cancer, never smoked. And so she's really sad, and her mom and her don't really, talk about feelings, or not very emotional. She goes to school. She's kind of pigeonholed as the smart kid, and she's kind of self-deprecating. She's like, that's only because I've stayed home alone by myself this whole time and read books and slept in my pajamas and read books. And so she scores awesome on her English test, and the typical sunshine, beautiful jock boy wants her to tutor her. And so she agrees to tutor him. And he turns out to be a really awesome guy. Like he volunteers at a woman's battered shelter. He wants to be an elementary school counselor. And he wants to ask her on a date. But she's not sure she should go because she hasn't had a seizure in 3 months. She feels like she's a ticking time bomb, and she's really scared. So I love this book, The Thing with Feathers by, oh my gosh, McCall. See, this is the bad thing about library stickers. They cover up the freaking name all the time. McCall, last name. Oh, you have it for me somewhere else. McCall Hoyle is the name. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Adrienne.
That sounds like a great book. I'll have to put it on my list. My second selection for today, and this was my favorite book that I've read probably in a while. It's called Ray Bearer, and it's by Jordan Ifuko. It's the first book in a series, and it's the first book by this author. It's a story of a 16-year-old girl named Terasai. Hope I'm saying that right. Growing up, she's very secluded from the rest of her nation. It's kind of like an African future nation along the lines of Black Panther. That's what it kept reminding me of. She wants nothing more than to have friends and spend times with her mother that they call the lady. There are 11 realms in her country, and one child is chosen from each realm to be on the prince's council. And they move to the capital, grow up with the prince, live with him for the rest of their life. They become, both family and trusted advisors. So she has been groomed for this from the very beginning. She doesn't have any friends. She has tutors. She's not allowed to leave the house. So the lady, she ends up going to the competition to become her realm's person. And she, unbeknownst to her, it kind of was like a hypnotism thing. The lady planted a desire in her subconscious to earn the prince's trust, get on the council, and then assassinate him once she gains his trust. So the longer Teresa is away from her realm and the lady, the more she realizes she kind of feels this need to hurt him, and she doesn't want to hurt him. This is the first friend she's ever found. She wants to be friends with them, but she has to kind of fight against this thing that's pushed her down, this thing of her mom. I love this book. A really strong female protagonist, and each person from the realm, the group of 11 with them, each have their distinct personality. They all have different aspects from their particular culture, which I thought was really cool. I love her friends. She has 3 best friends, Sanjit, Deo, and Kira, and they're all really cultural diverse. They all represent, different things. I appreciated that the author took the time to develop the characters in a natural way, and they're all very distinct. So I give this 5 out of 5. I loved this book. Now back to Steve.
Okay. My second book, probably not surprising, another graphic novel, because I read so many comics. I probably read 2 or 3 of these a month, plus all the other issues I just regularly read. This is another one of those DC titles paired by a young adult author and an up-and-coming artist. So I actually did a book talk about Teen Titans Raven. I think I did that with my English class, but not here. Same author and artist. So there's consistency with the tone, consistency with the color palette. The colors are kind of, it's in color, but it's sort of muted, except for certain colors, so that are key to the character. So for him, it's green is always highlighted more. This is the story of Garfield Logan in a small Georgia town, but he prefers to be called Gar because, Garfield's kind of an embarrassing name. He's got a complex. He's been working out all summer. He hasn't grown. He hasn't gained any weight. He's trying to figure out why. His parents have him taking some kind of medication to balance him, but he's trying to gain weight, and he's kind of a social outcast. He doesn't fit in. He likes the pretty popular girl, and he wishes he was like sort of the kind of like they look like they stepped out of an Abercrombie and Finch ad of the popular cool kids. But he's, nerdy and doesn't fit in, and he can't figure out why he's not growing. He can't figure out why he's not gaining weight, right? He's got this best friend girl who's a video gamer. He's got this other friend who's just cool. He's an athletic guy, and he's cool, but he's friends with them. He's not mixed in with those popular kids. But this is a story about a teenage kid who's kind of making bad choices to be liked because he wants to be popular, but at the sacrifice of his friends and these kids that he's gaining popularity from. Do they really value him as a friend? All wrapped up into, well, it's called Beast Boy. So you can hint at where that's going. And at the end of this book, it's going to tie into the Raven character and Beast Boy character having their own book. I think that book's going to come out like next year or something. One of my favorite, this is just, it's just fun. You read it in an evening. It's just entertaining. One of my favorite sequences is, he's trying to gain popularity and be noticed by the cool kids. he's watching these stun videos and stuff, and then he gets dared to eat this ghost pepper. Okay, so the sequence where he eats the ghost pepper is just hilarious. It does this like panel, kind of like right, and then it goes into this like schematic biology breakdown of what's happening in his body, and then the little flash of like the only animal in nature that could actually eat one of these, and what's happening in his DNA, and it's hilarious. Just a fun read. I give it like a 3.5 out of 5. And I'm going to pass it to Heather so she can close us off for the evening. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Steve, and everybody. So I know that we're all sitting at home, but it's nighttime and we would do that maybe anyways. But it's really awesome to be able to come together and share books on a more frequent basis, even if it's online. But so tonight I decided if you're staying home and you're reading books, there's a few things you're going to find. You're going to find your own, I can't read my own writing. Oh, I know. Your own direction and your own life path, your own adventure and your own life path. You're going to find your own inner hero. And in case yours disappoints you, right? You're going to find true values in a corrupt world. So in case the world is corrupt, what can you do to find your own North Star? You're going to find your own true voice by telling stories in your own style. And that voice will evolve. You're going to find your own star power, which is a very amazing thing. You're going to find your own best friend. You're going to find courage to do hard things. You're going to find your nation. And you're going to find your own color. You're going to find your own character. So I think we're all winning tonight. And I'm glad that to hear all these books. It's one of the first weeks where I think I've heard of every author or read one of their books or read one of these books. And so it was really cool to hear the way other people describe their journeys through the same book. I thought some of the ways that I heard books described and characters described, I thought, well, that's true, but I would have never highlighted that. So that's why I think it's awesome for all of us to go out and read a book and find something cool. That's it. Thank you all for coming in.
Bye, book family.
Bye,
Stay
guys.
safe and
Come
get a book.
with it and read some books.
Read it. Read it.